Australia-China relationship going? Because the Chinese seem to be upset that we pushed very hard to get to the bottom of how the Wuhan virus actually originated, and it's pretty clear why we did that, because we want to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Well, the Chinese just want to win at all costs. It doesn't matter what the issue is. They want to dominate you and have you kowtow to them. That's their strategy. Doesn't matter what position you take, doesn't matter whether you're reasonable or unreasonable. They don't care. If it's not in China's interest, they're not interested. They believe Australia is the new China. The Chinese are mainly interested in control. That's how they look at the situation. And the ancient China, of course, believed that we were the barbarians and that they were the civilised people. That hasn't changed much within the cultural mentality. And of course, China is totally dependent on Australia for its iron ore and resources. If it didn't have access to that iron ore, certainly you'd find that the Chinese economy would collapse. They know that. And if the government really wanted to put a tariff on iron ore or to counter what they're doing to our barley and bullying our industries, that's all they have to do. They just have to say, whatever tariff you want on your iron ore is equivalent to what you're doing to our industry, to try to make a political point. And they'd be in line pretty quickly, and they'd respect that a lot more than they do. They see the Australian side sometimes as being weak. You know, I remember them recounting stories to me in the China Free Trade Agreement, laughing about how that they would have a particular position at the start of the day's negotiation, and as long as they didn't agree with the Australians until 4 o'clock, the public servants would all agree between 4 and 5 because they wanted to get home in time for dinner. So that was part of their strategy that they used to use in dealing with the Australian government and negotiating different issues. So the Chinese are about control. Of course, they want control of our resources in Western Australia. McGowan's got a former member of the Communist Party as his chief whip in the upper house. And McGowan's very close to China. And you see a lot of, I mean, I've heard stories of a lot of heads of state going up to China being offered a passbook with the Bank of China with $50 or $60 million in it and saying, well, it's available for you only through the Bank of China, that sort of thing. So the Chinese will protect their national interest. They will use anything at all, any activity, bribery, our courts, our agencies against us.
Well, speaking of China, the Victorian government has the Belt and Road Initiative, a deal down there. What do you make of Andrews?
Well, I think Andrews and McGowan are in the same mould. They are in the Stalinist communist mould of this totalitarian government. I mean, there's no reason why you'd extend the state of emergency for 18 months unless you wanted to establish that form of government. Of course, that's the same form of government that we have in China, where we don't have the rule of law or independent system. And, you know, the act that McGowan's passed against me is the government deciding that they will decide judicial outcomes, not the courts, and that they will direct people, and there'll be they've exempted themselves from the criminal law.